Okay. Well, Sam Cooper's work these past many years has performed an important service for Canada in exposing the Chinese Communist Party's malign challenges to our democratic institutions and our rule of law. The issue now is the Government of Canada and the Parliament should do what to set things right? Justice Mary José Ogg's Foreign Interference Commission appears to be floundering as the government, fearing negative exposure, withholds the most critical documents and engages in self-interested obfuscation. Moreover, Bill C-70's effectiveness will be in the interpretation of the language, such as the definition of in association with that Senator Wu talks about, the regulations developed to implement that bill, and the inclinations of whoever the government appoints as Foreign Influence Transparency Commissioner. If we don't get it right, we could end up with a Foreign Influence Transparency Registry that will have no names on it. Sam's work has benefited from the willingness of confidential informants to share classified materials with him. These are the people that the Prime Minister has denounced as criminals. They are accused of endangering Canada's national security by potentially exposing informants and methods of intelligence collection. But is this so? Can we point to any negative effects on Canada of Sam's reporting? It seems to the contrary that Sam's work is rather of benefit to protecting us from China's agenda to undermine Canada's sovereignty and national security. If so, this calls upon our government to become more forthcoming with what classified investigations learn about China's malign activities. In this regard, we have a lot to learn from Australia, the UK, and the US. They shouldn't have to give it to Sam, although good thing that they do. May 2023 CTV report entitled, "Why Does Canada Have a Disproportionately High Number of Chinese Diplomats?" revealed that there are 176 Chinese nationals with diplomatic credentials in Canada. In contrast, the United Kingdom's active database of foreign representatives shows that there are 124 Chinese diplomats working on British soil, 50 fewer than there are here in Canada, despite the UK having a larger population of 67.3 million, with 4.7 million people identifying as ethnic Han Chinese in Britain. According to Canada's 2021 census, there are just over 1.7 million people of Chinese origin living in Canada. While Canadian demographics are like Australia, we have nearly 3 times as many Chinese foreign representatives here. Australia has granted diplomatic credentials to 64 Chinese officials compared to Canada's 176. The numbers of Chinese diplomats in Canada indeed look disproportionate, considering that the United Kingdom has 44 accredited representatives in Canada, while Japan has 73. So assuming that China certainly does not require this number of accredited diplomats in Canada to fulfill legitimate diplomatic functions here, the large numbers of diplomatic passport holders from China working here in Canada would likely show that a high proportion of China's diplomatic cohort here in Canada handles diplomatic influence operations that have tipped over into interference activities. Michelle has suggested about 70% of them are not engaged in legitimate diplomatic functions. This is markedly apparent in the uncommonly large Chinese consular establishments in Toronto and Vancouver that Sam has written about at length. The U.S. Department of State Advisor for U.S.-China Bilateral Affairs, Ryan Fedusiuk, has calculated that the budget of the Chinese Communist Party's United Front Work Department exceeds that of the PRC Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This suggests, because China has so much resources into the kinds of activities that Sam has been exposing, that as a matter of national priority, CSIS and the RCMP need considerable augmentation of their resources to match the scale of the resources hostile foreign nations allocate to their programming designed to subvert Canadian parliamentary democracy. You know, we need the same amount of people working against them as are working to subvert our country. In addition, there needs to be a considerable restructuring of these counter-subversion measures, including much stronger integration of the relevant elements of Global Affairs Canada, CSIS, CSE, and the RCMP at the working level. Finally, here in Canada, we can observe former cabinet ministers, former ambassadors to China, and people retired from senior roles in our foreign ministry who have assumed lucrative China-related opportunities after leaving government service. It would be very difficult for Bill C-70, the Foreign Influence, Transparency and Accountability Act, to track the silent implication of future payoffs for officials who took the Chinese Ministry of State Security's bait years earlier and therefore are not following up on documents produced by security agents calling for the government to do something about Chinese malign activities in Canada. So we need other mechanisms to deal with this issue of people after retirement who may have been neutral or possibly even wittingly served Chinese interests from gaining benefits from a foreign power. I would point out that officials who have security clearance in Canada are bound by a lifetime ban on their revealing or benefiting from the classified information that they gain knowledge of in the course of their work. I would suggest a commensurate measure would be lifetime restriction on persons who have had influence on Canada's foreign and security policy from assuming positions that include income or benefits from hostile nation foreign services after they leave government work. So I've recommended here 4 rather obvious and simple actions for the next government to consider after Justice Ogg releases her report on December 31st. But the history of the Canadian government's adopting the recommendations of commissions, whether they're royal commissions or just commissions, has not been good. But if our government blows this matter off with lip service and no substantive follow-up, I believe strongly that history will judge them very badly. Thank you.